All right, we're live. What's up, world? You don't get to talk to us yet because we got to count down first. All right. All right. What's up, interwebs? What's up, restoration rebels? Andy McCabe here. Joe Spears over there. This is the Restoration Rebel Roundtable for, oh crap, it's the 20th of December, 2023. OMG. What's up, Joe? How's the year treated you?
Man, I don't know about everybody else. Like it's a weird feeling when it's been a dead. It feels like it's been a predominantly dead year this year, but at the same time, since like September, it has just straight by. Like I
Gone.
can't believe we're
Gone.
already at Christmas.
Me either. I mean, it's I've had several people on the phone, especially the last half of this year, Q4 this year, and the overall sense I've received, and I think I've echoed this in our conversations, Joe, is that this has been one of the slowest, hardest years to be a restoration contractor. Like in memory, it's unreal. It's getting so hard to get paid, and then when you don't have major events, um, it just you don't have those big windfall events that happen. There's some guys that are not gonna. I don't think are gonna make it in 2024. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I haven't read the agreements yet. So I'm going to do that. I just redid the agreements today, so I hope you like them. I'll make them pretty and post them in the
I
group
hate
here shortly.
change. I hate change.
I don't like change. Stop changing shit, McCabe. Okay, here we go. In the grand tradition of skilled artisans and guardians of our noble craft, we, the licensed professionals of the restoration industry, come together under a banner of shared responsibility and dedication. With a deep sense of duty, I'm not going to read this every single time. I'm going to read it this first time. With a
You've been
deep
playing D&D. I swear to God, you sound like you're playing a game. Like in the
with
darkness of the night,
Hey,
when
let me get
the
through this.
storm
Let me get
breaks.
Shut up. Let me get through this. Here we go. With a deep sense of duty to the insured public and an unwavering commitment to excellence, we hereby affirm our solemn pledge to uphold these sacred agreements. Agreement number 1, I will protect the value of my services. I pledge to safeguard the value of the services I provide, recognizing that offering free services can undermine the perceived worth of similar services across the industry. I commit to ensuring that my work is appropriately valued and compensated. Agreement number 2, I will practice incredible transparency. Transparency is key in my operations. I will ensure that my clients are fully informed about the claims process. This includes not concealing pricing details, refraining from falsifying reports, and ensuring that any communications with adjusters is also shared with my clients. My goal is to build trust through honesty and clarity. Agreement number 3, I will practice in, I will embrace community over competition. I do not view other restoration companies in my market as competitors, but rather as integral members of my community. I commit to being an active and supportive member of this community. It is through our collective strength and unbreakable unity that we will drive the positive change we seek in our industry. Finally, agreement number 4, I will align my work with my values. I am committed to aligning my professional endeavors with my personal values and mission. This means I am prepared to walk away from any project, client, or contract that conflicts with these principles. No professional relationship is worth compromising my financial stability, peace of mind, or humanity. With a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, okay, that sentence isn't going to make it through the final draft. We mutually pledged to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor in upholding these agreements. Okay, that last part's probably not going to make it all the way through, but boom, there you go.
I feel like I'm in one of those, like the Masonic lodges, taking a pledge of secrecy for some secret society.
Yes. Yes, you did. You just did. You just did. Um, but I think it was long overdue. It was getting stale. I didn't like how it read. Yeah. So there we have it. We've got hopefully OP Almaraz will join us later on in the show. But I want to talk about let's continue our talk about how this year went, and then I want to talk about what we can do as restorers to prepare for the coming year. So yeah, let's talk about Joe. Let's Joe, you started out the year as an independent contractor, running your own business, and now you're not. But yeah, what's your take on the 2023?
I feel like it's kind of, I've been in this industry long enough to know that, we go through spurts, ups and downs. And I feel like, if this year is as mild as it was, I feel like, coming into the year, it's going to get bad again, just like it did last year. And I'm hoping that, this year will, make up for last year a lot. But it's one of those situations where, it's been really hard for a lot of contractors. We didn't have storms. We really didn't have wildfires. Even the fires that we did have in Hawaii, people weren't allowed in there. They were high in asbestos and lead. It was total loss. So there's just not a lot to do. So, I feel like, everybody has tightened their belts a bit and tried to, take the time to. I feel like a lot of people did take the time this year to reevaluate and adjust and fine tune their processes, which is always great to do.
Hmm.
And I feel like, if this next year if we do end up going into a nice big surge, um, then it should allow us all to actually succeed again. And it's just, some people live paycheck to paycheck, no matter how many jobs they get in. And some people, they don't hold any money back. As whatever profit left over, that goes into the boss's pocket, and they didn't plan ahead of time to say, "Hey, like I need to have some held back for a rainy day," and they might not survive through the next year.
Yeah, if you didn't have a rainy day fund, you had a hard time this year. That's just plain and simple. But I believe there was insult added to injury in that this is the year of the TPA butchering. TPAs, ward law, held to a lesser extent, AccuServe, all those yahoos, they have taken their game to the next level. And as it stands right now, let's get Lauren. Lauren's in here. I'm going to mute him though, real quick. I'll get to you, Lauren. It's as it stands today. Ward law. I firmly believe that ward law's company policy is to take whatever mitigation comes in the door and reduce it to 40 cents on the dollar. That's what I'm seeing across the board, across the country. It's these mitigation reviewers. They're coming in. Literally, well, that's all you're going to get. We'll give you 40 cents on the mitigation dollar and pound sand. That
Well,
game has gone to the next level this year.
Well, and what sucks about the TPAs is, it's one thing if they are only judging the file based off the S500, but they're also going a step beyond there and have signed contracts with the carriers to do their work, and they're judging us based on these carrier guidelines that have no basis on the industrial standard and
Well,
simply based on what the carrier feels is valid,
they're
and
doing the carrier guidelines, yes, but they're bastardizing. They're misreading and misrepresenting the S500. I think Lauren might have something to say about that. What's up, Lauren? Good to see you, man.
Hey, good evening, guys.
There you are.
How are things?
You got. We're talking about 2023. It's been a really hard year in a lot of different ways. What are your thoughts on? I think we touched on this a little bit last week, actually. The bastardization of the S500 in order to cut claim severity on behalf of these TPAs and mitigation review companies.
Hmm.
Bit too deep for you on a Wednesday.
That's a hot potato. And pretty much everything you said, just as I was loading up here, is I think is a fair, to a certain degree, a fair assessment of what I'm seeing out there. I'm north of the border. We still have third parties. Obviously, I'm part of that group in a small capacity, but I do think the third parties that get involved with the review process, that you're spot on. That the objective here is to reduce the overall cost of the claim, and not to look out or to make the insured or the property owner whole.
Yeah, the goal is not indemnity.
Fair,
indemnity is not the goal.
No. I've reviewed other reviewers, and I come out after reviewing their review. I actually put it right in my statement and in my conclusion that after thoroughly reviewing, the premise of the purpose was not to review that the restoration approach was appropriate, in line with the standard of care, and fair and reasonable. I know you don't particularly like that word reasonable, based on the reported loss and damages of the property. That, and this is the line I use, not verbatim, that it appears that the purpose of this review by this company was to reduce the overall cost of the work.
Yeah.
And I think I see that a lot. And
I don't mind the word reasonable, but I also like the word actual. So reasonable and actual costs incurred to mitigate the loss. I think that should trump everything. What did you actually do, and what did that actually cost? Because that's what the carrier owes for the mitigation portion. And in the vast majority of the problems we're seeing is on mitigation. Like Wardlaw is not coming in and auditing a $500,000 fire loss. That's just not what they do. The carriers have focused on their low severity, high frequency claims, and that's mitigation. So mitigation is going to get all the attention, and they've got a number. It's goal-based reviewing, in that, okay, we think every mitigation should cost $5,000 or less. Well, that's their goal then. That becomes the standard that they have internally, which they gauge all mitigation jobs against, which is just not fair. So I actually had Ed Cross on the phone today. He was kind enough to give me 10 minutes of his time, which was amazing. But one of my takeaways from our conversation was, despite the air quotes third party designation of folks like J.S. Held and Wardlaw and AccuServe and whoever else is butchering these mitigation invoices, despite their stance, what they actually engage in could arguably be very easily argued that it's UPA. Like, these guys are negotiating claims on behalf of carriers. That is a licensed function. But no one has called them out on the carpet on it.
Well, and it's also, I mean, it's kind of like the old adage, the difference between an engineer and an architect. An architect, everything looks good on paper. The engineer has to figure out how to actually do it. And a lot of these TPAs, they don't have field experience. They've never been there. They're just reading it on they have the education they've been taught on paper, and they're like, and they don't want to give any credence to, not everything is as perfect as a complete 4-day dry out and things. And, they're not willing to listen to, a lot of times, reason on, hey, this had, some unique situations, or, Whereas with the reconstructions or with the full fire
they're
job and
not
stuff.
they're not using reason to make their initial decisions.
Yeah, I mean,
They're using a cookie cutter approach.
but it's one of those things where, like, if I talk to an adjuster directly, I can look, I get it, but because of X, Y, and Z reasons, we were trying to save the hardwood floor, so we dried out for 3 days. After 3 days, it wasn't responding. We decided to go ahead and remove the floor. The adjuster's going to be like, yeah, sure, I understand there. I appreciate you trying to make the effort for it. The TPA is going to say, well, then I'm not paying you for the drying out the floor mat system because you went ahead and tore the floor out. And it's like, no, you don't get to do that. Like, I tried my best and all. It just wasn't successful. Everything has a difference. And I think that's why we've seen such a predominant amount of the rebel mentality and procedural of just billing the insurance or the client directly and giving them the tools and saying, your job as being the carrier or the homeowner and policyholder is you now have to go get refunded the money or reimbursed the money on this job because they don't want to deviate from a set script. Most of these people don't have Xactimate training like some of us do, where they don't understand, how to use the default price list and still revise it to the way that it needs to be written, labor trades and things. And their responses with it, you have to have a adjuster approval for that. No, I don't. I'm not. You might be AccuServe with Code Blue, but I didn't sign up for the TPA. I don't have to abide by a single one of your rules. But then if you don't play the game, then they go back to the judge and say, well, they wouldn't respond to me or they wouldn't play the game. And so my
And here's my
version of
recommendation.
here's my recommendation on billing. And then the judge's like, that's what they recommend. That's all I'm paying. And it's like, no, that's not how it works.
I told an adjuster via email, but I said, just because you wish a job would have dried faster doesn't mean that's how long it should have taken. It dried in the time it took. And you coming in 45 days after the fact saying, well, you should have put more equipment on it. You should have found a way to dry it faster. That it doesn't matter. It's a false flag. It's you weren't there. We are the professionals. We make the calls. We make the determination of how much gear to use, how much to tear out for how long. And sometimes things take a little longer than we wish they would. But it doesn't mean we should get paid less for our efforts. It doesn't mean we should, well, if you don't have a drive by day 5, that's on you. It doesn't mean we can't charge for day 6 and 7 and 8. The professional restorer is going to justify that and have plenty of backup for his actions. So let's see here. It's gotten significantly worse in commercial large loss side as well. Third-party reviews are acting as adjusters. I agree 100%. The sole purpose of reducing claim cost and not ensuring the accuracy and quality of the work performed. Yeah, it is infuriating. Johnny, welcome to the club, buddy. It's a war out there. Oh, Mr. Callahan. The scope of work, replacement of equipment, and duration of use is supported by industry standards, psychometric moisture mapping data. Yes, it is. In combination with estimating platform operations, reflect expected operation. Invoice has been updated to confirm. Yes. Oh, are you giving us some words to use? That's a great. Everyone copy and paste that. That's a good. I like that. That's an opening statement thing, or maybe it's a closing statement. I don't know. That's some good words from Mr. Patrick.
Well, and this is what I will say. And you guys know me. I'm always a bit of a devil's advocate. I'm always trying to be, mindful things. If anything, this past year has taught me is that the people that are watching this, the people that actually invest in themselves and their career to the point where they're joining Facebook groups, they're learning and trying to educate themselves. The reason we hate the TPAs is not because of anything we're doing wrong. It's because we are a minority within the industry itself. And the amount of people that do not know how to properly document a job, whether it's moisture log, cycle comments, they're the ones that are causing more than anything the issues. And I hate putting it back on us as well, but they are. I mean, I've seen contractors who do not provide any form of sketch or measurements to justify the the equipment ratings. I've seen files where everything is rounded to the nearest whole number, whether and it makes no sense. I've had rooms where it's 12 by 12, 144 square feet, and they write 150 square feet on there because they just round it up. Or you
we're
know
gonna get that, but I'm still not. I am not gonna take on. I'm not gonna say it's okay for the rest of the
no,
industry to be treated in a certain way, because
no, I agree with you,
there's
but
some
I
people
think
that don't know what they're doing.
but I do believe that it takes two to tango, and I do believe that while they are trying their best to minimize the cost, one of the ways that they're validating the need for them is because of how many people are in the industry are not even,
Not doing it properly.
not doing it properly altogether, and they're making it harder for everyone else that is doing
Yeah.
it professionally. Because, just like I go to McDonald's, I get a dollar cheese. I know it's not a dollar no more; it's like $5. But you go to McDonald's, you get a dollar cheeseburger. You go to Red Robin's, that their cheeseburgers are like $20. You go to Ruth Chris, it's gonna be like a $30 or $40 cheeseburger. They're all cheeseburgers, but how you prepare it is going to dictate the price. Same with us. Just because
I've
if
never
they want
had
to,
a Ruth Chris hamburger, but I bet it's a phenomenal hamburger.
yeah, but you can't go to them and say, well, there's only one Ruth Chris and there's 50 McDonald's, so the average price of the cheeseburger should actually be 3.50. So that's all I'm going to pay. No, that's not how it
No,
works, and
no,
that's
it
how they
isn't.
want to treat us. Well, I don't know how many times I've heard and they'll say, well, that's just not commonplace in your area. Okay,
Mm.
but it's still per the standard of care. Just because no one else does it
Yeah,
doesn't invalidate what I
I'm
did.
gonna take my own opinion on what is commonplace in my market, because I actually do work in my market. Thank you very much. All right, let's OP. OP and
Yo,
I have we have a date next week. We're gonna talk about some stuff. We're gonna do some deep dive, but we're gonna use this as a little bit of an intro or a teaser for next week. We had a conversation. It was last week, you and I, OP, and we it seems like we were striking a chord in that, man, there's some real malaise in the industry right now. There's some real downtrodden and just folks losing some hope here. So once you start off with your thoughts on that.
yeah. And look, Andy, I think I've been in this industry 26 plus years. You've been in it for a long, long time. Gone are the days, right? And everyone knows this. I'm preaching to the choir for those that are here, right? So, gone are the days that the carrier has any loyalty whatsoever. And I'm talking about
Period.
When you have all these, when you've been around a long time, the carriers know you, the managers know you, the supervisors know you, and yes, you get people change and they shift, but overall, the carrier's mentality is getting worse. So, look, change is going to happen in every industry, and it continues to get squeezed in our industry. Like they continue to choke out the profits, is the way I see it. Now, the bummer is, 8 years ago, I forget when it was, Andy, was the first Rebel meeting in Colorado.
No, Bend. It was in Bend, baby.
But Bend, my bad. So back then was this energy of like, screw the TPA. And, I was still on TPA lists. I still am on a couple.
Sure.
And I'll explain why. But the message that I was trying to portray to all the restorers is like, hey, man, we have to do our own marketing, and we have to position ourselves in such a way that we are the only choice. And
we got to take responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah, we do. And and a lot of what's been said on the Facebook groups in groups like this is 100%. You got to get the homeowner on your side from day one, because the carriers are going to try to push, a franchisee on them or whoever to say, hey, I can send out XYZ. I don't know who Allied is. I don't know who this person is, but I can tell you if you use XYZ, no problem. And so educating the homeowner, is step one, but really like we have to build rapport with the team. Like we got to go in there
like instant. Yes.
Instant, man. Like here's what we tell our staff is like the water damage, the smoke damage, that's not their problem. Like, that's not the thing. What they're dealing with is Cindy's graduation is fucking next week.
Yep.
And her dress just is wet.
Christmas is next week.
And Christmas is next week, right? All the gifts are underwater. Like that's the issue. It's not the water damage caused more problems, and we have to be able to connect psychologically with Mrs. Smith somehow, some way to go, shit, how can I help them bridge the gap from the pain they're suffering that's not the water damage, and how can I help this situation? And when you start to become that person, and you have the autonomy from your company to go and run out to go do something, buy something, bring it back, there's a connection between the contractor now and Mrs. Smith that when the carrier says, hey, I don't know who that is, I got someone else who could do it for our price, she's going to say, hold on a second. Like, you don't know, Leon over here or Leroy or Larry, whoever, he's my guy. And so we have to get better at
lose my guy.
Yeah, lose my guy, right? We have to get better at connecting with the people.
Yes.
And look, I'll tell you right now, it's easier said than done. And one of the things that I had to do, and I just did it recently, guys, probably 3 months ago. There's a carrier locally. I've been with them for, I don't know, 15 years. When I say with them, I mean they keep referring to this business, and we coach their adjusters. We educate them on how to read plans and do fire loss.
You don't see that very often anymore.
Right. But, man, they had a new manager come in, and she was a mess. And
she was a hot mess.
The people she was managing, like she had no business being a manager,
Right. Okay.
And so she was managing probably 5 different people. Customers were yelling at us, and I'm calling the main manager going, hey, man, like, I don't know what's going on over there, but we're not getting responses, right? And our customers yelling at us. And so then this middle manager is throwing us under the bus. We got to a point on a Zoom call with 7 of us for 2 hours.
Jesus.
And I said, hey, man, you know what? We're done.
Yeah.
We will no longer be your vendor. And I got to tell you guys, it's $1.5 million of revenue like that.
Ooh.
That's painful, man. Like, and here's the thing. I'm not suggesting people do that. But I came to the point of like, screw you. I've got top level service and you want to pay me pennies, right? Like the gentleman was saying earlier, right? You can go to McDonald's and get the thing, or you go to Ruth Chris and get the thing, right? So, but they want to pay McDonald's prices for everything because Joe down the street works out of his garage, which by the way, they don't check on workers' comp. They don't check on some of these things that
no overhead.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, so when I do that, the pressure's now back on me. Like, hey, OP and my team, what are we going to do to replace $1.5 million? Right? The answer is not firing people. I'm not into that. Like, now the pressure
comes out of the room.
Yeah. So it's really painful, man. And I see it.
So we've had a slow year. We've had a terrible year. There's no big disasters. A lot of guys are hurting. We're getting squeezed from every direction. What are some things going into 24 that guys can start doing? Like, I'm not asking what you're going to do specifically, but what are the types of things that guys can start doing to replace that $1.5 million?
So one of the first things we look at is, okay, what other verticals of business in the insurance world? And look, don't get me wrong, I love insurance. Okay, like this is all I know, man. And as a former carpet installer, the most painful thing was you're not working all the time, right? The economy's doing this, and this is what I do, and I hated that. And so in the insurance restoration business, you have more consistency. So I love the business. But when these challenges show up, you've got to be able to understand change will always come, and we have to be able to adjust. So the first thing I look at is what other vertical can I serve? That same customer is buying more things. That same customer is buying contents from the carrier. That same customer is buying mold, and I'm sure most of the people do mold. That same customer is buying reconstruction from that claim. That same customer
is buying wildfire protection. How did that go this year, brother? Because that was your first year really with the was it FosTech or was it?
Yeah, it's FosTech.
Okay.
And I got to tell you guys, and I'll tell you everyone now, like that, my friends, has opened so many doors for us.
Oh, I bet.
And let me just explain kind of the thought process there. This is wildfire and water damage prevention. So we started this prevention company, and the insurance brokers really are my clients. They're the ones who call and say, "Hey, we got a claim. Go out there, take a look at this." So we get introduced to the insurance carrier once we're on site. But the brokers kept calling in 2019 and 2020 saying, "Hey, do you do this thing called home hardening?" I thought, what the hell is that?
What's it called? What's it called, OP?
Home hardening is what the term was. Hardening the home. And I dismissed it like, yeah, I don't play games like that. I like do small little things. I do big stuff, you know. But I was evacuated in 2020 from my home. And when I was coming out of the elevator, after going to the hotel, I voluntarily evacuated. I came downstairs in the morning to take my dogs out to the restroom. The lobby was jam-packed with people. They were scared shitless. There was no vacancy. Everyone's screaming, yelling, trying to figure out, is your home still standing? Is your home burnt? And I'm like, what the? Are you kidding me? So when I heard this and I saw this, there was so much uncertainty in that room. I thought, okay,
like 300 people sitting in that lobby, just like at their wits' end, like
freaking out, out, and they're trying to call other hotels, like, where can I go? But it hit me like, okay, this is what my clients go through, right? When I get to the fire damage home, they've been here already, and I'm like, there's got to be things we can do to fortify the home or prepare it better. So we have a better chance of the home surviving. And that got me into home hardening, which basically, guys, is installing, most of the homes here in California have a tile roof, Class A fire rated. Check the box. Those are some of the major basic things. Most of them have stucco, right? Siding could be flammable if it's not the right type of siding. So that's part of home hardening. But the main things are installing Ember resistant vents on homes. Okay, so you have the gable end, then you have the vent. What they found out through a lot of research is wildfires ignite homes not from direct flame contact.
It's the embers. Yeah, it's the cannonballs.
Yes, sir.
And there's I've heard some stories of like embers, like that's not an ember, that's a freaking fiery log. That's been sent miles because of this wind and the updraft and everything else.
Big time.
Yeah.
And then, you're right. You put the wind to it, forget it, man. Like now you have speed, and this thing is flying, like you said, for miles. And so the small embers will go through those vents because they only need to be a quarter inch. Well, that's still.
And then they're in a perfectly dry wood environment, and 100%. Whoosh.
And if you go back and look at some of the news footage, you're going to see on some of these local fires, you got homes inside, like there's a hillside here, and you got homes over here igniting, and the flames are here. Like they're igniting because of embers are intruding. It's just what's happening. So we began to say to the insurance brokers, hey, by the way, I'm doing home hardening now. And here's what I'll tell you guys right now. As you guys know, AIG left, State Farm stopped writing, Farmers stopped writing. In California, what they're, and I have letters from the carriers because I not to me but to the homeowner. AIG says, hey, Mrs. Smith, I still have you. And by the way, they're still renewing their existing portfolio. They're just not writing anything new. So they say, Mrs. Smith, cool. Here's the deal. Your renewal comes up in 60 days. You have to install Ember resistant vents. You have to put gutter guards on your gutters, and you have to clear vegetation away from your house. And if you don't do that, we are going to non-renew you.
We cannot insure you. Mm-hmm.
And so we're getting the calls from the brokers going, hey, OP, look, dude, can you help out my Mrs. Smith? Because it's commission for them, remember, right? They're making money. This is now where people are messing with their money, and they're like, yo, man, I need Mrs. Smith to be okay. Yep, we got you. And in some cases, Mrs. Smith is spending $10,000. In some cases, it's $90,000. And so it depends on
it's a different this is not insured, right? This is not being paid for by the carrier. This is coming out of their pocket.
So watch this, man, because this is a marketing play.
Not having insurance on their house. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a marketing play for a couple things. I want my broker to still love me and call me, but like this is low-hanging fruit for us, right? This is a loss leader. We go in there, cool. We're making 50% margins. Okay, that's cool. Sure. It is what it is. But now that Mrs. Smith just invested in prevention, now I'm going to continue to drip on her with my mailers, with my emails, with my text messages, okay? Letting her know, hey, by the way, we do other things like water shutoff valves, okay? That'll prevent a water damage. But we also let them know we do construction, we do water damage restoration, we do mold cleanup. And watch this, man. When the wildfire goes through, and this is just wildfire stuff, because smoke deodorization is, for us guys, 70% profit. Okay.
Oh, at least.
We make a shit ton there. And I love wildfire. I'm like, yep, let me go in there and clean some houses.
Hell yeah.
So now I've engaged a company that AIG, Chubb, and Pure pay them for alerts. Okay. So now I'm paying them every month to say, hey, man, here's my 2,000 addresses. When you get a wildfire within 5 miles, you're going to send me the alert. They're like, cool. Now I could see the alerts coming in. I'm like, yo, Mrs. Smith, heads up. Wildfire's coming up. Your 5 mile radius right now. Okay. Let me have you do this.
Wow.
Right. So now I'm prepping her. Now we can go in there and spray frost check, right? As a prevention, like, which is a fire retardant. But here's the thing I'm after. When the evacuation's lifted, I'm texting Mrs. Smith, hey, Mrs. Smith, evacuation's being lifted tomorrow at 9 a.m. We're going to be at this corner of the shopping center near your house with my entire staff. Let's meet here and you walk us up to your property.
Wow.
Now, if you've ever been a part of an evacuation being lifted, they're asking for ID. Okay. You can't just drive up there on day one. Day one is very much so for the homeowners. And so, but Mrs. Smith says, hey, this is my contractor. So we ride up together before a fucking claim is even filed, guys.
Then you're in like Flynn. First notice of loss, baby.
Done.
Fucking
done. And if I could pick up, 18, 20 houses at $100,000 cleanup, dude, that is the game for us as to how am I going to be able to market and get in front of the competition.
Yeah, that's 100 G's before you even get into contents. Yeah. I mean, I worked a couple of those Malibu fires. And they're, I always hate to say it, but man, they're a dream. They're a dream for restorers. There's just a light smoke job is a perfect job because nothing is ruined, but you have to touch everything. It is, smoke.
And the time frame, right? The velocity of your cash flow is the best, man, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're there for a couple of weeks. You're invoicing. Let's go. And you're invoicing like fire damage money, right? If the house burns down, you're billing $100,000 to $200,000, $300,000 to repair, but it's going to take you 9 months.
Yep, at least
before you're done. Yeah. So that when you brought that up, that's really the play for us.
Okay.
And the beauty is we're actually just about to this first quarter of 2024. We're getting the final permissions to franchise this model, and we're going to teach whoever wants to be part of this.
Do it.
And here's how you do it, man.
All right, Rebels, you heard it here first. This sounds like it's up your alley. You just wait.
So it's just another way for us to not have to be held down by the man. And I don't really use those terms that often, but it feels like that now, man.
It
It
really
feels
does.
like they're calling the shots. They're telling you whether they're going to pay or not.
And they're just
then who was
mean.
that? Yeah, Joe was saying earlier, you have these contractors that are willing to do it for cheaper, and it's true. And that's what sucks is that, sometimes we'll go in there and we'll have to bid something in advance that's not a water damage, but it's construction. And you get a contractor and there's just lowballing. And I'm like, dude, you're a piece of shit. Piece of shit. And I always want the opportunity to say,
bottom.
Yeah, let's walk it together so I can just kick your ass because you don't know what needs to be done, or you are just playing the game.
Yep.
And look, guys, I'm going to tell you this. I work with a high net worth quite a bit. Right? We're in the Los Angeles area. That's our niche. One thing that took place years ago, and I never forget, it was terrible. There was a prominent insurance company that called me out to do some work. I did some work for this customer. Then this customer, months later, had a different claim. She was saying, hey, the people next door are building their home and they've got this massive 30-foot, 40-foot, whatever hole because they're building an underground garage, and they're pounding, guys, right? So the customer calls and says, hey, man, here, look at all my cracks. I'm like, oh, shit, okay. I don't know. Okay, is he related? I don't know. Well, the adjuster says, I'm going to get a consultant.
Of course.
Guys, we're in the driveway. This adjuster looks straight at the consultant's face and says, hey, I don't care if you think it's related. None of this stuff is fucking related. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
And at that moment, I'm like,
wait, in front of
Oh,
you?
no. Oh, no, there's a homeowner there. We're at the bottom of the driveway going up.
Okay.
And we're having this, and I'm a preferred vendor, right? So she feels comfortable. Now I said it's a woman, but she feels comfortable having these conversations. And I'm like, that's fucked up, man. So now this unbiased person,
he knows where his bread is buttered.
It's a racket sometimes.
Because if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't create an outcome-based report for her, he will never get a call from her again. And that's the reality we're in. These guys are not necessarily evil people, but they're in a shitty situation because they have to write things a certain way. Otherwise, their entire livelihood is at risk. So they have to lie. They have to falsify reports. And it's becoming very, very hard to counter that. And what's happening is, and I've seen this more over the last 5 years than any other time, the insured is having to incur additional costs to hire their own experts to fight these things. And it's night and day. I mean, it's very easy once these things get to a certain point. It's very easy to go. My engineer actually has a license. Your engineer got one out of a Cracker Jack box. And here's this, but you have to spend money to get to that point and defend the claim. And a lot of people are not willing to do that. They just don't have the wherewithal to do that.
Well, and I mean, you also got to realize, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we are being, or I don't want to say attacked, but we're having to go on the defense on so many different fronts. You already have, everybody, if you ever watch the news, they don't do fluff, happy pieces anymore, hardly. It's always the tragedy here, the tragedy there, because that's what brings viewers in. And if you ever watch anything about contractors, there's never anything good to say. It's always, do you know how much you're being screwed over by the duct cleaners? Do you know how much you're being screwed over by the siding guys?
Protect yourself.
And so instinctively, by default, the homeowner is already on the defense, feeling like we're the bad guys, like a good neighbor, and everything else. The insurance produces a product to make you feel like they've got your best interest in mind, and that we're all out just to screw them over. And so you've got that defense you already got to deal with. You got to go on defense against these other, you know, consultants who literally are being called out by the insurance. I don't know why contractors are so afraid. Like if it's mold, no one has a problem. Let's call out an IEP for mold. But I don't know any contractor that wants to fit the bill, usually, to call out an IEP or a consultant on their own accord. Call one out. They always just default to who the insurance comes out to
Mm.
and everything. And so you got to be on the defense because you got to fight with a consultant or this third party that is trying to tell you how to do your job. You've got these other service master and all these people. They're the ones that everyone knows. So if everyone, just like McDonald's, everyone knows them, they must be pretty good if they're everywhere. And it's like, no, it's like, I mean, these franchises, they're like Subway nowadays. Where like anybody that wants to buy one, you can get one. This is your little area. Go at it, have fun. And
Oh, they're
I mean,
stacking franchises on top of each other for
oh
sure.
yeah, and it's just because there's a quantity doesn't dictate quality. And
Yeah.
but so you're always having to play that defense. And that's why it's so important to get the homeowners on your side, because by default, the agent doesn't want them to file a claim because too many knocks against the agent. They lose the right to sell the coverage. They've already got all these places in place to make the homeowner feel like you're just trying to screw them over. And
Mm.
what's really sad about it is like, I know for myself, whatever, if I'm going to give you an early pay discount, great, not a big deal. But I'm always going to estimate the project out the exact 100% same way I would, regardless of insurance involvement. And I can tell you right now, homeowners instinctively, for whatever reason, feel like the insurance is going to go with the lowest bidder by default.
Hmm. Yep.
And but if I give that homeowner, I'll pay it out of my pocket, and I give them the same estimate that the insurance company will pay for, they lose their mind and think you're trying to. That's way too damn expensive, because people are so out of touch with how expensive things are nowadays. Also, like it makes it hard in every aspect of it, and that's why you have to have somebody that not only can help get the homeowner on your side, but they have to be able to talk fluently. Me and Andy and all of us, we talk and we can dictate and discuss these things easily. But a lot of these people, contractors, they're relying on I got 2 years of experience water tech lead going out there to get Miss Homeowner to sign the paperwork. And they're like, yeah, you should be. I don't know. And they hem all about it. And that puts no faith whatsoever
Yeah.
that you're in good hands.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. I got an email from part of my new company, Quick Check. We do what's called claims defense. So we're handling rebuttals and we're queuing up contractors to respond to the nonsense that we see every day. So part of the nonsense I saw today was Traveler's adjuster received the estimate. Right, we wrote the estimate. Contractor turned it in. Traveler said, "We're not paying that. Here's our comp. We're going to pay based our comp." And then in the email, she said, "If your contractor can't do the work for our price, we require you to go get 3 competitive bids." Which is, it's not in the policy. It's not an actual requirement, but that's how she's couching this: is we have the right number, and if your contractor can't do it for that, then we need to go. You need to do all the legwork to get 3 different bids to do this work. It's just puts too much onus on the homeowner to do this work. They're going to cave. They're going to go.
You also got to remember that. I mean,
do it for 75 cents on the dollar.
And you also got to remember, it's not like we're dealing with, somebody's cars in the shop and they got a rental car and everything's fine and dandy. This is their home. They don't want to fuck around and deal with shit. Like, hey, whatever gets this put back together quickest so I can get on with my life, that's the option they're going to take 25 or 100% of the time. That's all they care about. Is get me back in order. Let's get going. And it does. It sucks. I mean, the insurance, though, is very careful on the way they have and train their adjusters to be scripted to talk. I mean, it's just like the appraisal process.
Mm-hmm.
If you whoever invokes appraisal has to abide by the appraisal.
Yep.
So the insurance will say, well, we're just not reaching an impasse. So the only other option
Well,
right
your
now
option,
this time
your
is
only option is for you to invoke appraisal. Yes.
yeah, or your only option is to invoke, is for the appraisal process to be invoked. And then the homeowner's like, okay, I guess that's the route we're
I
going.
guess that's what I'm
And
gonna do. Yep.
and they don't understand. You just got my contractor forced to abide by whatever, the result is, instead of you saying, I don't agree with the contractor, and then the insurance having to abide by it. Like, they are very careful about making sure that they word things in just the right manner to cover
Yeah.
their ass. And we are all stuck being like, oh shit. And I truly do believe, like I said, one of the reasons the TPA was because there's a lot of contractors not doing the work right. There's a lot of contractors, and I don't mean to offend anybody out there watching this, but if you're not good at computers, if you don't consider yourself tech savvy in any way, shape, or form, and you're writing your own estimates, you're causing more problems in the industry than you're helping, because you're trying to argue with an adjuster whose only job is to sit in front of a computer typing out an Xactimate, for example, and you're trying to type it the same way and learn it, but you're coming up with these products where you're like, this is the right number. You might be 100% right. This is the right number my company needed to be at for this job. But because you didn't use the system correctly, they tear you apart and you don't have a leg to stand on. Like, people
Yeah.
have no problem. I mean, I've seen companies, they have no problem send you out to WaterTech, send you out to
And that's why you got to hire someone like Andy's firm, right?
Yeah,
To
that's
just
why. I mean,
lay
that's
it
why.
out, call it 100%, man.
Well, it's not about the car. It's about the driver. I've said that so much time. Go ahead, Opie.
Yeah, one of the things I just would reiterate is that when the adjuster does what you had said, Andy, and types up a letter saying, hey, here's our bid, it's less than your contractor, and if you want to contest it, you need to provide 3. Like, they are winning like that.
Yep.
Like that's a badass move. Not
It's
good
a power
for us.
play.
It's a
Well,
power
I
play.
mean, if you think about it, and I tell my homeowners, think about it like a reasonable adult would. I want you called me. I came out here. I want to do this job. I try to write you the best accurate estimate I can. Your adjuster doesn't like it. They might send out the third party TPA guy to write an estimate. You didn't call him out. He doesn't give a damn if he gets the job or not. Do you think he's going to take as much time to guarantee he got every last line item that needs to be charged for? No. And then he's going to come back, and he's going to come back at like 70%, and the judge is going to say, see, look, this job can get done at 70%. I would love to see some way, somehow, for us to find out, like, get a record going and say, I went out to this job. I was at 100,000. The TPA sent somebody else out. They came in at, Y. How much did they end up at after supplementing at the end of the job? Because I guarantee
no one's tracking that data.
Nobody tracks that data, but
I agree.
I guarantee you, most of those companies that are underbidding us, they probably end up at the same amount we were at or higher.
They're playing the supplement game. That's what it is.
Look, man. Hey, Jennifer, how are you, girl? Good to see you.
Hey, babe, how are you? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. So, that game is 100% being played because I'm getting told that.
Mm-hmm.
As a vendor's been around for a long time. Hey, AOP, look, man, my supervisor's giving me issues on this. Dude, let's just get it down to X and just hit me with a supplement.
Hit me later. Yeah.
And I'm like, why don't we just call it like it fucking is right now, man?
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass for me later too, right? But then also, what happens if that adjuster leaves? Or
that agreement is out the door.
Yeah, man. And then, but the reality is they're given permission to do that. Of course, they definitely are doing that with the vendor who comes in at a lower price. But like, these are the things that we know are happening. I think the tools that we have to really consider for ourselves is when we put ourselves in the customer's shoes, like Joe was saying, the customer doesn't want any friction. The customer says, here's the bill, or here's the price I'm going to pay. My vendor would do it. Your guy is too much. The customer's like, I don't want this stress, man.
They're going to fold. Yep.
They're going to fold. And so we have to become more customer centric. We have to understand psychology. We have to understand sales, and we have to be ultimate sales people all the time. All of our technicians, we have to train not on the technical, but on the personal, right?
The
on the
technical
emotional intelligence on how can we connect with
the
this
technical
customer.
doesn't win these arguments because you can't use logic to fight rhetoric, and that the rhetoric is what is winning the game for the carriers because they're not using logic.
They're not. And if we get the customer on our side, we get the customer to understand that we're real, that we're doing our best, and we're going over and beyond. She or he might say, "Hey, Mr. Adjuster, I need you to treat my contractor better." Okay. So if I need to talk to your supervisor, let's do that.
That's
But
good.
if all we're doing is saying, "Hey, Mrs. Smith, this isn't fair. You should do this and you should do that," it's adversarial at the end. And that sucks. Like we're put in this position to be choked out on our profits, and now we're having to pay the price for that. And here's what last thing I'll say, Andy. I believe right now, especially the franchisees that have been around for 10 years plus, I believe they already know this. Like they wish, like they might even be joining some of these groups, man. Undercover.
Oh yeah.
They want to be a part of this because
we got program guys in here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're under this agreement and they're getting choked out. And they're like, enough is a freaking enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do we do, right? So they're listening in to see, okay, what can we do? Although they're our bread and butter because the carrier is paying us to get this work done. And the profit margins now are net 2%, net 4%. Like, it's crazy, man. And you and I were talking last week. You were saying some companies are going out of business.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know what I'm
seeing?
You know what I'm seeing a lot of, from my perspective, is contractors are calling me that are TPAs or are franchisors, and they're setting up DBAs. And wondering if I could put it under the same policy, because then the franchisor doesn't have any hand in that cookie jar. And so they can have the best of both worlds. They have the DBA, which depending on what state you're in, whether or not your Secretary of State actually even discloses that. Because in some states, you don't have to disclose the DBA. So if you go to the Secretary of State, you don't see a DBA. They're only filing that with a local.
That works to a point, and I've seen it. But as soon as they start seeing some real success and growth in that other DBA, the franchisor is going to come down, and they're going to come down hard. I've seen guys get their licenses pulled, their franchises pulled for that. And at the end of the day, I always recommend. My first question is, okay, how much longer do you have?
Sure.
How much longer have you obligated yourself to this? Let's talk in 3 years.
Well, and they'll play the game. They'll put it in the wife's name, so there's not a conflict of interest, or they're trying every little strategy, because the franchisor is dipping their hand in that cookie jar. Plus, those franchise fees are killing them. So they eventually have to either succumb to being tortured with that format, or you're right, it's only a matter of time before they're now trying to tell me, how can we take that off? And now I just want to be this over here.
Yeah,
so
they're 25%. They're 30% behind the eight ball right out of the gate, because the franchise fees compounded with the rules they have to follow. And back to your point, OP, what I think we can do, with these guys, we have no control over other people's businesses. We only have control over our own. But we also, now we're almost 10,000 strong in the Rebel group. We are a big influence in the industry. We also have influence over the industry. So what I advocate for is, let's raise the fucking tide, man, because that tide's going to raise all the boats. And you want to talk about industry standard and standard of care? Well, guess what? We're setting that standard. We are raising that bar, and we are going to set that standard higher and higher and higher. And we're going to force these people that are not abiding by our standard to either put up or shut up. Right. And there's just no room anymore in this industry for playing the games that actually diminish the value of all of us. There's a reason that in my revamped 4 agreements that number one is I will protect the value of my services. We have to, because if we don't, we degrade the value of all the services industry-wide.
Well, and that, and it is. It's one of the things that I've been seeing more and more like this past year is like, I mean, most of the people that are joining TPAs right now, like I said, there's two kinds of people that join TPAs. The people who were on it from the get-go and the owner is effectively out of touch with reality and thinks, oh, well, look, we've been in business and they keep sending us work and everything's fine and dandy, and has no real true clue what his numbers need to be at or
It's
what kind of
disconnected.
yeah, he's like, we make money and I live a decent life. That's all that matters. And the other half of the people that join these TPAs right now are the newcomers, the new people that buy in. They decide, excuse me,
Bless you.
you know, they experience a water loss and they go through it and they're like, oh, I want to get involved in this here because of how bad it was and I want to help people out. And they come in with a good mentality, but they sign up with, a franchise or
Code
whatever,
Blue.
and they're like, part of the franchises we get put on these programs, they're going to feed us work and great and dandy. And they don't have any clue that, they don't have any real basis to know that their numbers are so bad. Like they're not making the right profit. They're not making good value on the jobs
Well,
because,
they don't understand that they are handicapped and they can only grow so much.
yeah.
Because once your overhead gets to a certain point, you can't afford to do work on those margins. And I would argue, Joe, that there's a third group. And the third group of franchisees is those guys that have been in it for a while, and then they bought out multiple locations, and they're operating at scale. That's the only way. If you're going to reduce the margins, you got to increase your scale. So we're not here to bash on franchises at all. There's some guys killing it. And there's some guys running multi-million-dollar operations within a franchise environment, but the only way they're doing it is at scale.
I know for a fact. Go ahead.
The small guys just you're only going to grow so much. You're capped out. You're never going to do more than 2 million ever.
And you got to realize, I mean, if you are part of a franchise, they don't. I mean, they might tell you they care and that they're there for you, but they don't give a good damn about the company. All they care about is getting that revenue. We had a member of the group that was part of a franchise this year, and he was learning Xactimate. I helped him out on it a lot, and he was reading the fine print of the TPA guidelines, and he was buckling down, saying, "Hey, what you're asking me to do is not part of the guideline rule set here. Nowhere does it say I can't do this."
He was pushing back. Yeah.
And he was pushing back. And guess what? Guess what?
They shut him down.
They shut his franchise down and took it away from him and effectively fired him and everything. And now not only does he not have the franchise, but he still is under contract that he won't, conflict of interest it, non-compete it. And he's stuck in it between a rock and a hard place.
That's brutal.
Because he was trying to show integrity and do what was right.
Well, shame on him.
I mean, they don't care. At the end of the day, they'll fire you, and then guess what? Next company that wants to come on board, bring them on board. They don't. They're only in it. People only do things for money. I hate saying it like that, but everyone does stuff for money, and there's very little loyalty when you join into these groups. They don't care if you sink or swim. They just care that you keep paying your bills and you write the way they want, and they'll keep sending you work when you stop writing the way they want, or you stop sending them bills, they could give two craps less what happens to you at that point.
Yeah, I agree. So we're at the end of our scheduled time. I'm going to give OP the last word here, but before I do that, I've got my ticket already for the RIA show in Dallas in April. And if you're within earshot of this, join the RIA, get your butt to Dallas in April for the RIA conference. It's the best thing you can do as a restorer to become a part of a bigger community. Yes, becoming a part of the Restoration Rebels is a great start, but you also need to be part of the RIA. That's what it is. Go ahead, OP.
Yeah, and it sounds like Jeff Moore's really got the best interest of the restorers of mine. I've been talking to him.
Sure.
Hopefully, it could be a really good, impactful show for sure. I think, one of the things that I just want to leave people with and remind them is that I remember when I got in business, and maybe you got in business for the same reason, which is, I want to be my own boss. I want to be able to carve out my own income, and I know that I'm going to have to work really hard to do it. And if I've got to work 7 days a week, I'm happy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is, once we've been in business for some time and we get these accounts or these clients that give us consistent business and we have this trajectory of growth, I think sometimes we're fooled that that's always going to be there.
Mm.
It's not, man. Change will always take place. And instead of being fearful of what's happening and panicking and freaking out and being pissed off, think back to the time when you got started, right? Fucking boots on the ground. Now your innovation mind is clicked on again, and you're like, how am I going to make this happen? Like, we have to figure stuff out. We can't sit back here and say, I remember back in the day. No, we're here now, man. Like, we have to innovate, and we have to lead our people to say, friends, here's where we're going. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to get more training here. We're going to connect better. We're going to be experts. We're going to be this. We're going to start a new vertical. We're going to do whatever we got to do. But if you don't sound your own alarm for yourself and your company, then you're the one who's just going to sit back and your time, your clock is ticking, my friend. Like, you're going to go out of business.
Complacency is going to kill you. You cannot make any assumptions about the success you're having today continuing tomorrow. I agree 100%. I'm going to give you 2 claps.
Boom. Boom. Let's go.
Do it.
Everybody needs to speak up, because silence implies consent. So if you don't like it, you have to be brave and speak up.
Got to be brave. And we're right here with you, folks. If you don't want to say it, send it to me. I'll say it, because I ain't scared of shit. We'll see you guys. See you guys next week. OP, I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Got it. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks,
guys. Take care.
God bless. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.